Thanks very much, Tom. I'm going to do a little bit of shameless plugging of the book I launched a few months ago. It's called Saved to Memory, Lost to View, and we're going to start with a poem which gave the title to the memoir. Austin wrote a tune called Saved to Memory, and I wrote a poem called Lost to View, and we've combined the two. And I can do it now. Saved to memory, though lost to view, my crimson polka dot cravat and my rasping plastic blue kazoo. My first romantic rendezvous, with awkward gestures and chit-chat. Saved to memory, but lost to view. Rings and cufflinks, once worn new, a feathered blue-grey dandy hat, and my rasping plastic blue kazoo. Scrapbook cuttings sealed with glue, and posters from my student flat. Saved to memory, but lost to view. Those pretty teenage girls I knew, and fell for without caveat. And my rasping plastic blue kazoo. I bid them all a fond adieu. Pictures, letters, this and that, saved to memory, though lost to view, and my rasping plastic blue kazoo. So these are all the indispensable items from my past that I regret every day I wake up. The next poem is called Canada, and we grew up on a farm near a small village called Burthill, less than 15 miles from here. And there's a stretch of road leading down towards the village, which we always knew as Canada, or Canda. We left out the middle A. And I have no idea where the name came from, or whether it's still in use today. But anyway, I came up with this idea of a poem on the two Canadas, I suppose. And the music is a melody by one of the Canada's most famous songwriters, Joni Mitchell. We had a Canada of our own, without St. Lawrence, Great Bear Lake. But turloughs swam in rushing hollows, and hugging the ditches, bog water streams. We had our private Canada, without Labrador current, Chinook wind. Ours was a stretch of road 1 mile from Carrigain to Cooleen. We had our very own Canada. Shorn of its middle A, we called it Canda. Without maritime provinces, Pacific rail, but horse hooves clattered under arching trees. We had our local Canada, without prairies, Yukon, Hudson Bay, but moors, rakes and tumbling jacks, grated and bucked in scented meadows. We had our micro Canada, without British, French, Métis, Inuit, but Wicksteads, Ryans, Canas and Hewitts raised tousled grassy pyramids to the blue. No maple flag, no rocky range, no Winnipeg, Vancouver, Montreal, but out of a sugar-sprinkled lamp-black sky, my first amazing shooting star in Canada. Everybody at school learned about similes and metaphors, and this poem is called The Basket of Similes, so there are plenty of them. And Austin's melody that goes with it was called Dozens of Them. So lashings of everything in this poem, and a piece of music. As a vampire abhors a stake in the heart, as a Philistine eschews a work of art, as a yobbo spits on a poem on the dart, I curse the elements that keep us apart. As a child in an attic fears the thunder, as a manager rails at a goalkeeper's blunder, as a critic dismisses a one-hit wonder, I rue the times that we are asunder. As a loyalist despises the IRA, as a pacifist shrinks from a street affray, as a Puritan denounces a roll in the hay, I fret all the hours that you are away. As a polar bear objects to a zoo, as a client in a hurry resents a queue, as a practicing atheist spurns a pew, I grudge the miles between me and you. Where we grew up was not very far from a railway line, and I wrote a poem called Kilmastolla Bridge, and Austin has a piece, a kind of a talking blues piece called Train of Thought, and the two complement each other somewhat. By way of introduction, if you don't mind if I read a short extract from a chapter about trains in my book, my memoir, and it'll explain again the background to the two pieces. It is my very earliest memory. My father in the house where he was born, taking me upstairs to a room where his father lies in his final repose. I am seeing Gaga, my grandfather, for the last time. We have been holidaying in Kilkee on the West Clare coast and have ridden the West Clare Railway eastward to Ennis, en route to the funeral in Scariff. This is a temperamental rail immortalised by Percy French, the last narrow gauge track of Ireland's passenger system. The year is 1952, the year in which the West Clare Railway is dieselised, and I am 2 months short of my 3rd birthday. With that occasion accepted, trains do not feature much in my childhood. That is to say, I do not travel much by rail In fact, I am nearly 11 when I have my next rail experience. But my brothers and I grew up on a farm just over a mile from a railway line, and the hooting of the 10 to 1 and the 10 to 4 as they chug into Bird Hill Station heralds our lunch and tea breaks from the agricultural grind of meadow, tillage field and peat bog. Less than 2 miles east of the station is a railway bridge which represents a significant landmark in the topography of my childhood. It is called Kilmastuller Bridge, after the local river of that name, and takes the form of a narrow hairpin with black and amber markings on the old N7 National Primary Road. It is a treacherous double bend, and it has claimed the life of a truck driver in the early 1950s. In time, a new tunnel will be created, the road straightened in the process, and the old bridge with its little cross to remember the unfortunate truck driver bypassed and neglected. With the arrival of the M7 motorway, it will be doubly bypassed. But for a time in my life, this bridge marks the boundary of the local and the exotic. From my home village to Kilmastuller Bridge, the railway and the road course by familiar fields and houses of Cool and Lacken, but beyond those deadly bends is the great big world that throws up remote settlements like Mountrath, Port Arlington, and Newbridge, and the great metropolis of Dublin. So the railway defines a kind of watershed for me, and the train is not so much a mode of conveyance as a source of rhythm and music, a fanfare, a timepiece. Beyond the black and amber coil, where death played hide and seek and found, lay far exotic places. Mountrath, Dublin, Moscow, Kathmandu. Behind, the station at Bird Hill and home. This was my Rubicon, my Cape Bochador. The 20 to 9 and 10 to 4, throbbed by familiar fields in Cool and Lacken, before bolting into the vast uncharted through the eye of Kilmastuller Bridge. In time, I grew, horizons widened. The bridge diminished to a thin zigzag, bypassed by engineers, whose concrete tunnel shoulders with ease the grinding juggernauts. I, too, bypassed for years, until curiosity led me by the hand to that out-of-the-way meander, now hatching potholes, weeds and refuse. Below, the rails zoomed west towards Bird Hill. Behind me, Dublin, Rome, Afghanistan.
There was no clock to tell the time. In those days, no watch was mine. We'd be listening and waiting for you. The rocking sound and the horn you blew. We started slowly, picked up speed. Satisfied? A simple need. We'd be listening and waiting for you. In the garden and in the meadow too. In Tutankhamun, Corrigan, the Wellfield, Ardley. We'd be listening and waiting for